Welcome to the AdvisoryCloud Podcast, where we'll meet weekly with leading business advisors, executives, and leaders to learn more about what got them to where they are and what challenges they're solving to take their careers and companies to the next level. Welcome to today's episode of the AdvisoryCloud Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Beaver, co-founder of AdvisoryCloud, and we've got an exciting show today. We're going to be speaking with two CEOs, both of whom are using AdvisoryCloud to find advisors for their businesses. We're going to learn some more about their companies and why they've turned to AdvisoryCloud. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. Our first guest is Russ Anderson, CEO of RapidFort. Russ, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you having me.
So can you give us kind of a high-level overview of what RapidFort is and what your mission is?
Sure. So, Chris, RapidFort is a next-generation cybersecurity company that secures cloud-based software infrastructure. So in layman's terms, software runs on these things called containers. Think of them as being packages or balloons of code that run in the cloud. But these are not secure, and a lot of developers have no idea what's actually running in them. So our premise is simple. We profile our software container to understand what code is used, and then we remove all the unused code, and then we rebuild the container and return it. And we do this within a few minutes. So the container you eventually get is secure, cheaper, faster, and optimized. And these improvements are significant. We improve these container optimizations by about 85%. And so what used to take months of manual work now takes only a few minutes.
Wow, fantastic. So in terms of this, what led to the creation of RapidFort? What is it about your background or your company's background that's leading you to be successful in the space?
So our company consists mainly of engineers, in fact, almost exclusively of engineers. And so we've reached out to AdvisoryCloud to help with the commercialization of the technology. But at the core, we became tired of building great software and then it taking months of noodling through our code to weed out the vulnerabilities and secure it. So we knew there must be a better way to do this, and what we've built is a tool that does this automatically.
That's fantastic. So in terms of the success that you've already achieved, what are some of the momentums or successes that you have achieved that you're looking to continue to capitalize on?
Thanks, Chris. So we have a fantastic product that is producing exceptional results. So it removes 85% of vulnerabilities in minutes. It shrinks container sizes, making them load a lot faster, 300% faster. They use less bandwidth than memory, so are 4 to 5% cheaper to run. And we make software engineers 10 to 15% more efficient, which equates to millions of dollars of saving in recovered engineering time. So we're fortunate. We've got proof of concepts with several large financial institutions. We're engaged with the U.S. Air Force and the Department of Defense. We have partnerships with the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, who are pioneering modern cloud native software development, and partnerships with the Linux Foundation, who obviously are the leaders in open source projects. We recently closed a seed funding round, and Bloomberg were the lead investors, along with Plug and Play, which is the world's largest incubator. So we have the foundation in place for a lot of success, but are looking to AdvisoryCloud to help us source advisors to help with the commercialization of our product.
Wow, that's really exciting. I mean, it sounds like the success that you've already received in terms of financing and some of those partnerships is really pushing you guys in the right direction. That's fantastic. So in terms of your roadmap, what do you feel is kind of the most exciting thing that's happening here that you plan to happen in the next 1 to 2 years? You've talked about commercialization and your advisors being able to help you with that. But really, what's that roadmap that you see looking like over the next 1 to 2 years?
So we're very passionate about security and innovation, and most companies have thousands of vulnerabilities. If you take the average Fortune 100 company, they literally have millions of vulnerabilities. So we want to remove billions of vulnerabilities and secure hundreds of thousands of containers. In terms of our product roadmap, we're looking at replicating this and doing this for virtual machines. But at the end of the day, we want to help developers secure and write open source software faster, cheaper, and deploy their code more safely and less expensively.
That's fantastic. So in terms of, where you see the company going today, what are you most excited about for the future of RapidFort? Or, what are you aspiring to achieve that you think would really resonate with your customers and your potential audience moving forward?
Well, at the end of the day, we're in the business of reducing attack surface, making clouds workloads safer and cheaper to run. And so what motivates us is the idea of really revolutionizing the way cloud-based software is developed, secured, and deployed.
That's fantastic. So any closing message to potential advisors that you'd like to share?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. So what we're doing is cutting edge. It's industry leading, and it's a very bold vision. We've developed a fantastic product, but we're mainly engineering focused. We would be grateful and for help with commercialization. So understanding GTM strategies, assistance with sales and marketing strategies would be most appreciated, as that's the next part of our journey.
Fantastic. Well, again, Russ, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate your time and teaching us and telling us a little bit more about RapidFort. It's a really exciting company, and we're so excited to help connect you with advisors through the AdvisoryCloud platform to help you with your goals moving forward.
Thank you very much, Chris. We're looking forward to working with AdvisoryCloud and having profiled some of your advisors that have cybersecurity, sales, and marketing expertise. We're very much looking forward to fostering some connections. Thank you.
So, Russ, thanks so much again. And it sounds like you want to do a small demo with us here. So let's take a look at the RapidFort platform, and you can walk us through the technology that you and your team have gone ahead and built.
Sure, Chris. So seeing is believing, and this is an example of a container that we've hardened for the Department of Defense. And you can see here they have 116 vulnerabilities, a few criticals and highs. The original container had significantly more than this, so they've already done a good job of doing this. And that's the original image, and this is the image after we've hardened it. So you can see that we've reduced that vulnerability count to as little as 12. In terms of the size, we've reduced the container size by 94%, and there's a variety of other things in the tool in terms of detecting proof of concepts and things like that, which we could showcase at a later point. But at the end of the day, the improvements are dramatic and they're immediate. Training is minimal, and we can get customers up and running in as little as 15 minutes.
Wow, this is really, really impressive software that you guys have gone ahead and built here. So tell us a little bit, how long has your team been working on this software, and what's that path been like to date?
So, Chris, the core engineering team have been working on the problem for around 2 years. What happened in December of this year was SolarWinds was the first example of a major software supply chain attack. And it was at that point that the product was ready and we started to commercialize the product. So all in, we've been working on this for around 2.5 years.
Wonderful. So in terms of that, you mentioned the SolarWinds attack. Obviously, there have been more and more high-profile cybersecurity related events just in the last few months, if not last year or so. Tell us a little bit more about how you see RapidFort being able to take advantage, if you will, by being so well-timed and well-placed in the market to really help out companies at this time.
Thanks, Chris. Yes, this is unfortunately a good time to be in the cybersecurity business. But what we do is important because cloud-based workloads are vulnerable, and ransomware and those types of attacks are becoming everyday events. We've heard of hospitals, pipelines, and mission-critical infrastructure like water and transport systems are also becoming victims. And so what we do is we actually address the 3 biggest cybersecurity concerns of the day, and we improve them by around 85%. So zero-day attacks occur when hackers exploit exposed code, and because there's 85% less code, it means there's 85% less risk surface to attack. And so we call this attack surface reduction. SolarWinds was an example of a software supply chain risk, whereby hackers introduced backdoors into software that they then exploit. And our software removes those types of packages because if they're not used, they're essentially deleted. And the final piece of the puzzle is what's known as zero trust architectures. And what our product does is, because it reduces the number of components or parties you need to trust, there's less code and less packages and less interfaces to manage. And so in terms of the big three issues of the day, zero-day attacks, software supply chain risk, and zero trust architectures, our product aligns very well with those new needs.
Fantastic. And again, it really sounds like you're well timed and well placed in the market. So congratulations again to you and the team at RapidFort.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having us, and we look forward to collaborating with AdvisoryCloud.
Wonderful. Thanks, Russ. We really appreciate it. So our next guest today is the CEO and founder of HealthPass, Osama Usmani. Osama, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Real quick, can you give us a high-level overview of HealthPass? What's the mission? What have you set out to accomplish with HealthPass?
100%. HealthPass is a startup that I started up earlier this year, only in January of 2021. And we really are a digital healthcare company that specializes in data transfer of a user's EMR, which stands for electronic medical records. So we make it easier for obviously a patient to get a hold of their own EMR, but then we also make it easier for them to share that EMR with third parties, which could be other government institutions, their educational institution, or third-party businesses. So for us, again, we're a tech company that works in the healthcare space. I think that would be the best way to kind of summarize what HealthPass is.
Fantastic. So what led to the creation of this company? What was it about your background that led you to recognize the need for HealthPass and your product?
Yeah, 100%. So, to keep it short, we had a few stories that hit close to home when it came to, COVID, especially last summer when things were really starting to pop off. And, at the time, I think a lot of people were underestimating how large of an impact this is going to have on everyone. So for us, we started to realize at that time, again, from a few personal stories as well, for myself, I had an aunt in Pakistan. And we realized that, the best way for people to receive healthcare in this day and age in a post-pandemic era is in a remote way. And if we can facilitate that, just allowing users to communicate with healthcare practitioners, again, in a remote way, it really does save lives. Saves people risk, saves people time, and, there's a lot of other cherries on top that we can add. But at the most fundamental level, it just saves lives.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. So in terms of, you mentioned you just started the company earlier this year. Where are you in terms of product roadmap, building out the product? Where does that stand today?
I think I share the same story that a lot of healthcare companies, tech companies in the healthcare space have as well, which is you really got to do your homework. So since January, we started, I really use that as we started building the team and building the plan out. But once we had the right people on board, that includes obviously a healthcare specialist. For me, I have my good, friend and co-founder Mary Emmy, who's based in Europe, does most of her work in Brussels and Georgia. But from that, we kind of really had to work together to come up with the most kind of the simplest plan. What is it that our product is going to do? And the biggest thing is we got to write it down on paper and then cross-check that with compliance and make sure that we're legally allowed to be, doing this, right? And once we got that part out of the way, even though it might have seemed simple, it was more on paper. We didn't have an app fleshed out or anything. But once we were able to do that, we really were kind of springboarded, because that's when a lot of the industry as is was able to kind of see it and recognize it and kind of approve of it in a way. We were invited out and we're actually awarded now. We're an award-winning startup in Las Vegas by the International Forum on Advancements on Healthcare. It's a mouthful, but they're an organization and they reached out after learning what we do. And from there, we got to, obviously meet a couple of potential clients in the healthcare space, but just meet, regulatory partners and so on and so forth. So from there, now that we know that the idea is ready and ready to go, We've really kind of put our head down the last few months and focused on development. I don't have anything to show for it right now, but we have a prototype that we are working on, hopefully trying to deliver by the end of this year. We'll see how it goes.
Wow, awesome. I mean, it sounds like, again, it's very early on, but already really seeing success and seeing some traction there. So congratulations to you and the team.
Thanks.
So you mentioned a little bit, obviously, I know it's early, seeing that you're working on getting that first version of the product out by the end of this year. But in terms of your roadmap, beyond launch of the product this year, what do you see happening over the course of the next 1 to 2 years that you're able to share with us today?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of the kind of the nitty gritty seems to be what we're working on and kind of finishing up right now in preparation for kind of our launching. And we have a few avenues for that. Some of the more kind of ones that we're really trying to pursue are like accelerator programs, for example, Techstars and things like that. We've been a finalist into one of their cohorts already. So that's all that some a program like that, honestly, not just us, but gives a platform that startups need. When it comes to funding, I guess in the beginning, because a lot of these programs and things that you want to use aren't free. But on top of that, it also allows you to focus on these projects full time. So we have a team of 5 now, and we're all specialists in what we do. But we do kind of have day jobs that we have to hold as well. We are relatively young in our career as well. So a program like Techstars and stuff would really kind of take us to the next level. But in terms of what we've got going on right now, yes, we do plan to finish everything up in December. We have a client that we're working on a pilot program with. So really starting to collect that data. And again, coming into the new year in spring, that's when we plan to have more of like our demo day, if that makes sense, starting with friends and family, of course, but we'll really have something physical to show for it instead of it just being an idea.
Wonderful. That's very exciting. And again, I think going from, day one earlier this year to having a product out in less than a year. I mean, we hear from a lot of startups that are working for multiple years, especially in an industry with so much regulation, such as healthcare, where you're dealing with a lot of that different regulation. So congrats to you and the team there. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges around some of that compliance that you've dealt with so far. And in particular, I know you mentioned when you and I first got on the call that you're up in Canada, and you mentioned that you've got some co-founders in Europe. What's your plan in terms of international markets that you're going to be targeting to start with, and then managing compliance and regulatory issues across those different markets?
I think the way that the buzzword that I've kind of been using with the team as well is this kind of term of coverage map. And I liken that really to seeing a coverage map of, how many states your cell phone provider kind of covers, right? And I say that for 2 reasons. The first would definitely be just the way the regulatory kind of landscape is set up. A lot of these, if there are going to be changes, which there are a lot of, but if there are going to be changes, you need to treat them in the United States, state by state. But sometimes, if you're lucky, for countries, you can kind of relatively treat it country by country. But even here in Canada, for example, each province kind of has a little bit of their own thing going on. So for us, we really kind of treat it like that, where we have like an initial MVP, most like the most minimal version of our product, but we can kind of apply that AI bot in a couple different ways, right? But we just have to put it through the filter of whatever state that we're working in. So that's one of the things with regulatory. But the second thing, just in a more practical sense, when we went to Vegas, one of the things that we really kind of got feedback was, if you're a data transfer company that can help a lot of these different silos communicate, because when it comes to any sort of information, regardless of healthcare or not, they really are just data repositories. And if you can help some of these data repositories kind of communicate, there's a huge market for that. And it's not impossible. People do that all the time. But within healthcare, we think some of this has been lagging. The finance guys have it down, and some of the tech guys have it down in their own spaces too. So, we're just trying to disrupt it in that way, where it is like a relatively older idea. We're not reinventing any sort of wheel, but we're bringing efficiency where we haven't seen much innovation in a long time, if I'm going to be honest.
Absolutely. No, it sounds super exciting. And again, it seems like you've put a fantastic team together. And I know that, we're really excited on the Advisory Cloud side of being able to help out in any way we can, help connect you with some great advisors. So just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, telling us a little bit more about HealthPass. Like I said, we're really excited to have you on the platform, and can't wait to follow your trajectory as you move forward. So thanks again for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Osama. Well, that's today's show. I want to thank again Russ Anderson, CEO of RapidFort, our first guest, and of course, Osama Usmani, who we just spoke with. It's always great to learn more about some of the companies that here at Advisory Cloud we're helping to find advisors to help them grow their businesses. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Advisory Cloud Podcast. Have a great day.